my fellow Americans. If you think you know politics, think again. I'm Michael Cohen, and every week on When You Know, we're pulling back the curtain on power, politics, media, and the people making headlines. On my new WABC radio show, you'll hear conversations from names that you know. People like Jerry Falwell Jr., Anthony Scaramucci, Alan Dershowitz, and many, many more. Maybe, just maybe, we'll even hear from the president. No scripts, no spin, just real conversations with people who were in the room where it happened. And trust me, we've got some very big surprises coming. Look, I've spent years at the center of politics, controversy, and power. I know the players, I know the stories, and now I'm bringing you inside. When You Know, Sundays at 5 p.m. on WABC Radio, and When You Know Unleashed, wherever you get your podcasts. Because with me, you never know who's going to show up.
In the U.S., there's a break-in every 26 seconds. But when intruders step near, Simply Safe Home Security steps up.
Stop. This is Simply Safe. Police are on the way.
Using AI alerts, U.S.-based live agents help deter break-ins. Simply Safe, no long-term contracts. Save 50% on your new system with professional monitoring at simplysafe.com/Spotify or with promo code Spotify.
Outdoor deterrence requires a Simply Safe Active Guard outdoor protection plan starting at $49.99 a month. Visit simplysafe.com/licenses for alarm license information. Tennessee 2012.
Anyway, my two guests this afternoon are John Fund. You know John Fund from his many, many years at the Wall Street Journal editorial board, at Fox News, at National Review, one of the smartest political minds in our country. And, of course, Tom Del Beccaro, who is also a regular and he's backed by popular demand. Tom was the head of the Republican Party in California. He finally wisely moved out of California, but he has many books about politics in in California. So both of you, thanks for joining. Let's start with you, John, and then to you, Tom. I'm going to ask you the question I'm asking my listeners in the second half of the show. What the hell is happening with the Democratic Party?
The Democratic Party is having a civil war, and the civil war is between the old-fashioned establishment that was tied into making deals for public employee unions and favorite corporations, and, of course, playing footsie with the identity politics of the left, and basically was just interested in grabbing control of more resources and distributing it to their friends. And they're in war with the Democratic Socialists, who are true believers. They want to transform America. They want to turn America away from the Republic and the Constitution and turn it into a form of European socialism. And they're absolutely ruthless in tracking down and hunting down centrist Democrats and trying to take over the party the way that any extremist organization wants to win power.
So, Tom Del Beccaro, how did that happen?
Well, thanks for having me on. In my book, Lessons of the American Civilization, Chapter 10, I talk about America, capitalism to socialism. This didn't happen overnight. This is decades and decades of one building block of government programs after another, and America is cradle to grave. And so the DSA is the next extension of the Democrats. Remember,
so, by the way, the DSA is the Democratic Social. What is DSA? Democratic Socialist
of America. And think about what are their main things is the Green New Deal. Well, that was public policy under Biden. They want universal health care paid by...
But hold on, Tom. The Green New Deal has been totally repudiated by voters.
Get ready, Staten Island.
The Ferry Hawks are back at SIUH Community Park July 7th to the 12th for a 6-game series against the High Point Rockers. Tonight, first pitch is at 6:30. It's Thirsty Thursday with $5 Bud and Bud Light Drafts. Friday, July 10th, first pitch is at 7 p.m. May the Force be with you on Star Wars Night with post-game kids glow around the bases with special lightsaber training packs.
Visit ferryhawks.com now to lock in your seats.
But my point is that was policy for the Democrats, and so the DSA is a natural extension. They want universal or Medicare for all. Well, Hillary wanted that in 94. So the DSA is a natural extension of the big government party. This is what you get when you add up 100 years or since the New Deal of government push programs.
So I think you're exactly right. By the way, I do love the name. What's the title of the book again, Tom?
The Lessons of the American Civilization. Your name's on the back cover, too. I saw that.
It's a perfect book for people to read right now to save our republic. So, John Fund, you've been in this business longer than even Tom and I have been. I don't know. I think that I'm confused by it, frankly, because I grew up in sort of the Clinton era where you had back then a lot of kind of moderate Democrats like Sam Nunn and Dick Gephardt and people like that. They don't seem to have any voice in the party. In other words, John, my question is, why aren't the moderate Democrats speaking out against these people?
Because they have the courage of other people's convictions, not their own. They thought that they could just basically tell the Democratic grassroots, sit down and shut up. We're your party betters, and take whatever table scraps we can get from you in the form of welfare programs and other things. Well, that's not good enough for the Democratic Socialists. They want real power. They're French revolutionaries, not American revolutionaries, and they are completely ruthless. Just as a lot of Republicans fear Donald Trump because he can defeat them in primaries, Democratic centrists fear the Democratic Socialists because their party primaries are very low turnout. In New York City, Steve, 10% of registered Democrats voted in those elections that handed 3 congressional seats to the Democratic Socialists. So they're terrified that low turnout, highly motivated socialist cadres will turn them out of office and they'll be caught napping.
So, Tom, what I'm afraid of is that, we make fun of these people. I think most people with wisdom and education realize that these ideas are dangerous and they've never worked. And even Europe is trying to move away from these crazy ideas that have bankrupted Europe. But on the other hand, they could win. I mean, I believe AOC has a good chance at this point right now of being the Democratic nominee for president in 2028. And that's where all the energy in the party is. So I guess I'm fearful of these people.
Well, you should be, and again, because the Republicans over the decades have not exactly fought against this big government.
That's true.
I mean,
yeah, that's true.
We did Bush. Remember, Bush 43 added to Medicare. So we constantly do this, and at the same time, the Republicans don't present a contrast. America is the land of opportunity, and you don't want to come here, or Americans don't want government to guarantee you. You want your own personal life. Think about it, Steve. When you and I were campaigning together when I was running against Kamala Harris in 2016, we talked about the fact that the number one demographic of business startups in California were Latino women who want opportunity. They don't want government, and Republicans need to present that contrast.
So, John Fund, what is, if you're advising the Republicans to try to defeat this new Democratic Party, what would you advise them to be doing?
Well, the first rule of thumb will be don't imitate them. I really fear that part of, look, Donald Trump's policies are great, but when it comes to, claiming national security reasons to take stakes of equity stock in American companies,
very
when
dangerous.
It comes to subsidies for certain industries, we don't win by adopting the tactics of the left. That's the first rule. The second rule is recognize that this is a gift. For too long, our collectivist friends have been hiding behind vague terms like equality and justice and all of that. Now they're calling for real all-about socialism. We should recognize that this is a great gift because we can finally confront them on their own terms and have a real debate, socialism versus freedom. And I think we need to become much more aggressive in debating these people. They don't want to debate us. They just want to hide behind feel-good words. We have to force them to come out and defend their policies, which are indefensible.
Yeah, I'm very nervous about it, folks, and I think you should be too. Tom Del Beccaro, John Fund, excellent points. Thank you for joining us.